This is one of our garden on a roll mixed borders we delivered last year when this garden was just an empty space. I remember seeing the photos. That is incredible how that has come on in 1 year. And it's unbelievable how things have grown. But this time of year, late summer, is a good time to think about some maintenance tips that are quite important to see the plants through the winter and make sure they're nice and stocky and sturdy for next year. And I'd probably start here with the lavender up this end. It's finished flowering. You can leave them now, but I tend to prune lightly now and then a bit harder in the spring. You've got to be a bit careful, just lightly prune, cut all the old flowers off and cut down to where there's still leaves showing. It will stay nice and compact. Often we talk about deadheading flowers to get more flowers coming through, but Rebecchias, I tend to leave them to let them fade, because in the winter you have a beautiful dormant stalk with a black bud on top, which in the frost looks just stunning. So I'm not going to deadhead that, and that's just popping up through the back. This is a cistus, which is one of my favourites, which is beautiful. Just give them a light pruning in late summer. Just take the tips off, and that will again encourage a bushier plant, and that will just keep it into a nice shape. That's lovely, I love that. Now with our garden on a roll borders, we do the thinking for you. We space the plants out in the right way, so all you have to do is follow the codes, and basically it ensures that there's something all year round, and eventually the plants will all fill in nicely, which is what they're doing here. Now these Hebes was a group of 3. It's a bit of a bare patch at the bottom where it's creeping over the lawn a little bit, so I might suggest they widen the border slightly. But Hebes work fantastically with the purple leaves of the Physocarpus. This loses its leaves in the winter, but this is evergreen. So it's a nice mixture of evergreen deciduous, different foliage colours, even when things aren't flowering. That used to be 3 plants, and now it's just formed a beautiful bank of silver grey, which has white flowers in July. Now this one here, I would say goes in most of our borders, unless it's in a very shady spot. It's the perennial wallflower, Erissimum, and I love it. It's a fantastic thing. It's been flowering, I would say, they do flower from May, June, right until the autumn, and I love it. Take the old flowers off just as they're finishing. You've got more buds coming through, and it just carries on the flowering even longer. The bees and butterflies love it. Hoverflies love it. It's just the best thing. Perennial wallflower, absolutely brilliant thing. Penstemon, we try and get those in most borders because they're so versatile. They flower for such a long time. Lots of different varieties. This particular one has grown beautifully just in 1 season. But when they start finishing, when you've got the old seed heads like this, it's better really to try and nip them back a little bit. Just a little snip. Remove the old flowers. I'm probably going to leave that one. It's too nice to cut off. The bees also love this flower. This is a golden heather. And I just love the fact that it just hugs the ground. It's nice and bushy, never gets leggy, and it just covers the ground nicely. And it's a bit of a foil for all these other things that are quite kind of colourful and bold at this time of year. So you kind of ignore that, but in the winter, this is lovely. Take out any grasses that are growing through there. This flowers in the winter time, and the only pruning you do is when it finishes flowering around about April time. You just cut the old flowers off, and again that keeps it into this nice carpet form. So what we do try and do is get some variations of heights, colours and textures, so even when things aren't flowering, it's always something of interest. Now this perennial salvia can spoil it this time of year. It just looks a little bit untidy, and it's quite easy to deal with. All you've got to do is take all this off. The plant won't mind if it stays there, but it looks a bit messy. This is our shady border. It's the other side of the garden. It's got a different feel to it, different sort of atmosphere. Softer colours, more pastel shades. The hydrangeas at the back are coming through nicely. We've got some gorgeous evergreen hardy ferns. Now the only thing that's looking a bit rough, I must say, this time of year, and it always happens, is lady's mantle alchemilla. I'm just going to cut that back and tidy it up. Just grab handfuls like that. As soon as the flowers finish, cut them all off. The soil is just rock hard. It's just the compost that was there has disappeared. And what you should really try and do is get the air back in there. Things will just grow a lot better. And all you really got to do is just to try and go in at least halfway if you can, and just get the air back in there. It really does help the plants grow. Put a bit of feed around there. Any organic fertiliser would do, generally about a handful a square yard or square metre. Get yourself some lovely rotted organic compost. stops the soil closing up again like it did before. And apart from all that, it looks brilliant. Lovely straight edge, hides a multitude of sins. The mulch makes the plants look fabulous, I must say. That's it, put to bed nicely for the winter. See you in the spring.